34 million small business owners. That's how many of you are out there who the United States Small Business Administration considers to be their constituents. You small business owners that the SBA is supposed to serve on its mission to support small business in the American economy. You need to know about what's going on at the SBA. Even if you've never gotten an SBA loan, including a COVID pandemic loan, even if you think you will never need financing and thus a connection to the SBA, because you would be wrong. We have a whole playlist of videos here on the Simple Sense for Small Business channel about financing, including our repeated warnings that when you go to your local commercial bank to borrow money for your business, very often they are going to just take your loan application and drop it into an SBA lending program. Why? Because your lender doesn't want to take the risk on you. And that is why the Small Business Administration was created in 1953, initially and essentially to serve underserved communities, women, veterans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and other underserved communities. That's the mission, the true mission of the SBA. But what we have seen as we've moved into the late 20th and early 21st century is that banks, realizing that they can use the SBA program as a crutch, they're going to use the government program, which is your tax dollars, to protect their depositors' money in the event of a loan default. Because small businesses, many are successful, but many fail. The IRS recognizes this because the IRS allows you to start a business that's not a hobby and file it on your income tax returns at a loss for up to 5 years. After 5 years, the IRS wants to talk to you about why you're still losing money and, maybe you should reconsider this small business idea you've got. But that's another topic. Bottom line, 34 million of you out there either have in the past received a loan that was guaranteed against default by the Small Business Administration through a commercial lender, or you got an SBA disaster loan due to a hurricane, a wildfire, tornado, whatever, or you received assistance during the pandemic with the COVID CARES Act passed by Congress, where Congress gave the SBA the mission to administer distribution of funds through the COVID EIDL program, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, through the Paycheck Protection Program, which was a forgivable loan at a very low interest rate, 1%, and through the Restaurant Relief Fund and Shuttered Venue Grant and other initiatives that Congress created to save the American economy as a result of the pandemic. But again, even if you are not one of the business owners who took advantage of those programs to survive the pandemic, even if you've never gotten a loan guaranteed against default by the SBA, there may come a time in the future where you go to a lender or you go to the SBA directly for a disaster loan. And you need to know what's in this following video. This is from our other channel called EIDL Experts, where we have provided information to small businesses during and after the pandemic about the SBA COVID pandemic programs. We recently did this video to inform our audiences on that channel, who were all borrowers of the COVID loans, just what kind of crazy horror stories they need to be aware of at the SBA, because it impacts their ability to repay those loans. It impacts their ability to recover from the pandemic. It impacts their ability to move forward. That is why we're sharing that video here on the Simple Sense for Small Business channel for you other 30-odd million business owners who did not get COVID loans or never got an SBA loan, or you think you're never going to get an SBA guaranteed loan in the future. You need to know right now in 2025 what an absolute mess is happening in your federal government with an agency that is designed to support your goals, your mission, your life objectives of being your own boss and owning your own business. 34 million small businesses. That's a huge number. Please like and subscribe, and please consider sharing this video with your CPA, your accountant, people in your business networking group, other business owners you know, family members, anybody. Please help us get the word out there, because again, Until the pandemic came along, most all business owners had never even heard of the SBA. But here we are. Many of you took advantage of the programs, many of you didn't. But many lenders rely on the SBA to guarantee their loans against default. So whether you got one in the past, you're getting one now, or you might get one in the future that you don't know, because you can't predict the future any better than I can. You need to know the fundamental underpinnings of how the Small Business Administration is in distress right now. And if you have any takeaway from this video, please consider contacting your member of Congress immediately to complain about Congress's failure to support you as a small business owner through their failure to support the United States Small Business Administration through reauthorization, through better funding. Instead, what's happening is that the new SBA administrator has just said she's slashing 43% of the workforce. I don't know if you've seen the headlines from the LA wildfires, Hurricane Helene, but disasters are happening. In fact, according to the experts, 2024 was the worst year on record for natural disasters. Don't believe us, read it yourself. Don't be like this person. Don't say, never borrow money from the government. You can't say that. Because that road that is outside your business, the government put that road there. Your local community members didn't build that road. The internet that you're using to watch this video, the government did that. Your local church group didn't create the internet. And on and on and on. You cannot say these outrageous, bizarro remarks like you don't need the government, because you do. Don't be like this person. Know what you need to know right now about the SBA, because whether it impacts you today or 5 or 7, 10 years from now, it's going to impact your business one way or another. Please like and subscribe, and please consider sharing this video with someone that you think would find it useful. There's a new kid in town. Everybody's talking about. The new kid is Kelly Loeffler, the new administrator of the United States Small Business Administration, released her memorandum, her mission directive to you, the small business community, which we understand to be around 30 million small businesses as constituents of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and also to her staff at the SBA, which, according to a report in NBC Universal by Louis Cam, who interviewed me and several of our clients and some of the other EIDL experts out there, there are only 2,800 full-time employees at the SBA. 2,800. 30 million constituents, 2,800. If you've watched our videos for any time before, you know I have so often railed against the United States Congress's failure to support you, the small business owners, by properly funding and authorizing and supporting the United States Small Business Administration. And then, of course, COVID happened, and we saw how the Congress came to the SBA and said, listen, we have this program. We need to get all this money injected into the American economy. We need you to manage this. But by the way, there's no extra funding for you to do that. Oh, and after the program ended and people in the small business community were having difficulty making payments, or maybe just trying to set up a payment profile on the portal. I mean, read the article. It's linked in the description, and you'll see some of the horror stories that at least our clients experienced in 2023 and 2024 with the SBA's mismanagement of the repayment system. So you can blame the SBA all day long, as these political representatives did starting in 2023 and into 2024. And obviously, according to the memorandum issued today, not just the politicians, but also the new SBA administrator blaming the Small Business Administration for failures, when in fact, the failure starts and ends with your congressional representatives' failures, your United States senators' failures to properly support you, the small business owner, by supporting the United States Small Business Administration. Do the math again. 2,800 full-time employees, 30 million constituents, small business owners. But listen, I didn't think I'd get a chance to do a video like this. I didn't think it would happen. We did a video a few weeks ago called It's Worse Than We Thought. And you know, it's like something in a movie. It's like a horror show. You know, you turn the corner in that dark living room and all the candles blow out and there's a shadow, because what you thought was bad, what you thought was worse, you turn that corner and the candles blow out, the shadow's there, and it just got worse, because today it just got worse. Click on the link and read Kelly Loeffler's memorandum released today where, words matter, right? Where she uses the phrase small business or small business 14 times in the memorandum. I counted 3 times. And I did not count where it says Small Business Administration. I mean when she addresses you, the small business owner, okay? For those of you going to parse my math, cut it out. But she uses the word fraud 12 times. Those are essentially equal in this memorandum. 14 times small business or small businesses, 12 times fraud. I mean, here's some screenshot that I took from the memo. And I've highlighted the word fraud for you. Fraud, 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 fraud. She thinks you're all criminals. We've been saying this to you for a couple of years now, since the whole mess started in the summer of 2023 when Mike Hannibal Ware, the SBA's Office of Inspector General, I'm not sure if right now he is considered to be actually the Office of Inspector General or if he's the former Inspector General because the president dumped him almost on day one. He didn't bring down egg prices, but he dumped the Office of Inspector General at the SBA. Mike Ware, reporting to Congress, claimed that 50% of you who got COVID EIDL funds are criminals. He said 50%, 2 million out of the 4 million loans were fraudulent. And there were politicians there in the Congress and the Senate who just like a satisfying slice of pizza. They just, we live in Connecticut where there's amazing pizza here in Connecticut. And no, I'm not going to get into the New York versus Connecticut pizza because I like both, because I like pizza, okay? But those politicians jumped into that like it was a nice, juicy pepperoni pizza on a Sunday afternoon while watching your favorite sport team on TV. And they were like, fraud, criminals, fraud, root them out. And they brought all this pressure on the Small Business Administration in 2023, and nasty letters and demanding that Isabella Casillas Guzman, the previous SBA administrator, get in front of Congress, get in front of the Senate, and demanding she do better to collect on these debts and to root out fraud, because they think you're all criminals. But you're not criminals, are you? You're hardworking small business owners. You are literally the backbone of the American economy. I'm not going to cite where I saw the statistic, and I'm not even sure if I'm quoting the statistic accurately, but what was the number? The majority of employment in the United States is created by small businesses. Small businesses, by the way, good luck trying to find a firm, specific, and detailed definition of what a small business is. I know you can't find it because I looked it up 5 years ago in the beginning of the pandemic because I wanted to understand who were the businesses that would be impacted by the pandemic and who would be eligible for the COVID funding programs. In that program, essentially, they say small businesses are 500 employees or less, but there are other conflicting definitions of small business out there based on revenue size. 5 million a year, 500 million a year, I don't know. But this statistic I'm talking about, that the majority of employment in the United States is created by small business owners, of which there are 30 million of you who are the constituents of this U.S. Small Business Administration by their own disclosures, their own admission. And so if you are the drivers of economic growth through employment opportunities you provide, and the majority of those jobs were in businesses with 5 employees or less. So if you are the drivers of economic engine, the economic engine in the United States with employment and with creation, you're creating things, whether it's pizza or clothing or parts. We have a friend who lives literally across the road here. He has a little manufacturing company here in Connecticut, and he does specialized, very intricate engineering of fine parts, many of which are used in the aerospace and aviation industries. So whatever your small business is, maybe you're a little deli, or as we say in New York City, a little bodega on the corner of 117th Street and 3rd Avenue. Whatever your role is as part of that community, you are not a criminal. Do you think of yourself as a criminal? Do you feel that you are often treated by the Small Business Administration like you're a criminal? We've spoken to thousands of small business owners since the early days of the pandemic, which was 5 years ago. How often I've had people tell me how badly they were treated by the representatives at the Small Business Administration. I have the email. We were accused in writing 2 years ago by a paralegal at the SBA who sent an email to our client we were assisting them with getting their final funding on a Hurricane Ian disaster loan. And we had assisted them to get their UCC, or Uniform Commercial Code form, filed with the state of Florida, where in the state of Florida, state of Florida creates its own form. You can upload the SBA form that they create, but essentially the state of Florida, you input stuff into a website and it creates its own form. When we submitted that form to this paralegal, she accused us of creating it as a fake document, that it was fraudulent. I have that email in writing. It was cleared up by an attorney who on the phone said to me, yeah, I had to educate a whole bunch of people around here in the office. But that's what I mean. Do you feel like they're treating you like criminals? Because if you have felt that way, maybe when you first applied for the COVID loan in 2020 or 2021, or when you requested an increase, or when your COVID loan was declined, and then you requested a reconsideration and you went through that nightmare, that was a hellacious experience. We know because we processed thousands of transactions. We gave away free advice here on YouTube. We heard your comments. We heard your questions. We heard your anxiety over that whole process. And often you told us you felt like you were being treated like a criminal. Often people said to us, I don't want to do anything wrong because I don't want to do anything that would get me in trouble with the United States government. So why do they treat you like you're criminals? But it's about to get worse. Read the memorandum. She mentions the word fraud, and it's a brief memorandum. Oh, I meant to count the word support. I think I forgot to count the word support because I'm not sure that it actually appears in the memorandum. Isn't that what you really need? You need support from the U.S. Small Business Administration. You need support like our client Robert, who owns 3 hair salons in California, who was featured, interviewed in the article that you can click on the link. Robert, who attempted, before his first payment was due at the end of the 30-month deferment period, he attempted to create an online portal with pay.gov and CAFS, Capital Access Financial System, which was the instrument for making your payments on a COVID EIDL before the My SBA portal was launched in early 23. Going back to August of 2022, Robert reached out to the SBA and said, I would like to start paying my loan, because he's not a criminal. He's a responsible small business owner who has had SBA loans in the past and has paid them all off dutifully, faithfully, and on time. He's not a criminal. And he called the SBA in August of 2022. He said, I would like to set up payments. How do I do that? And they said, well, you go to pay.gov and you do this, you go to CAF. And that started a nightmare journey for this man who, when he contacted us in January of 2024, was practically in tears on the phone, terrified that because he had gotten a letter from the United States Treasury demanding payment, saying that they were going to enforce collection activities against him, he was terrified that they were going to, the next day, seize his business operating account and he would not be able to pay his 13 employees. The man's not a criminal. The man dealt with the dysfunction of the SBA. Or our other client, who was not interviewed, I will just use her initials, DT, a very sharp small business owner in Illinois who deals with Medicare, Medicaid, state healthcare programs, because she provides home healthcare services for all kinds of folks in her marketplace. And when you deal with those types of programs, you have got to be on point with your documents. And when she engaged our services to bring her loan back from collections at the U.S. Treasury, even though she had been making payments, even though she had communicated with the SBA, I don't understand. I put this on auto pay. How can you tell me that if the payment didn't go through? It's on auto pay. It's your system. And when she contacted us in February of last year, because she got an email from a private collection agency, and I reviewed her documents, and this woman was on point. She has it's textbook how well she runs her business. She's not a criminal. And neither of these people committed fraud in any way, shape, or form. And yet the SBA sent their loans, along with around 860,000 other loans, to the United States Treasury for collections. And these folks faced terrible anxiety and fear and shame caused by the Small Business Administration's mismanagement of the repayment system. And what those folks needed was support. What they needed was an understanding that they are not criminals, that they did not and are not and were not committing fraud, that they needed support. Read the memo. See how many times Ms. Loeffler states the word fraud. She doesn't talk in this memo really about supporting you small business owners with the COVID program, at least. She talks about stepping up collection enforcement. Look at these screenshots. She accuses the previous SBA administration under Ms. Guzman of lax collection efforts. Look, here's the screenshot. I don't know where Linda's going to put it. Lax collection efforts, 860,000 loans sent to collection. I would hardly call that lax. Have you ever been pulled over speeding or running a stop sign? I have. 3 speeding tickets in my entire life. Once for a stop sign, which I'm pretty sure I stopped at that stop sign. I don't know about you, but when I was pulled over, I was terrified and ashamed, anxious. In all those instances, by the way, I was working. I was trying to get to work. And imagine how that feels. Now, imagine that you are stopping at a full stop at the stop sign. Imagine that you're setting your cruise control at 55 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour, if it's a 40 miles an hour, or 25 miles an hour as it is on the road right in front of our house here in the country, where people go blasting past our house at 40 miles an hour all the time. But imagine that you are obeying the law. You don't run stop signs. You don't speed. And yet you get pulled over by a police officer who accuses you of speeding or rolling through a stop sign or running a stop sign or running a red light or any number of things. Imagine the shame and the worry and the anxiety. And you're probably saying, but I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. That, folks, is my takeaway from reading this memo today. They're going to pull over everybody. Everybody's getting a ticket. Everybody's going to be accused of fraud. Do you know why I believe this? Here, listen, I'm not just making this up out of my head. I'm telling you this because we have seen things in the last 14 or 15 months that are very distressing. Read this comment from our YouTube video just in the last day or so, where this person in South Carolina, I think they're in South Carolina, Hurricane Helene, trying to get approved for a disaster loan for over a year, fighting discrepancies. We have seen that word discrepancies too many times in denials, declination letters from the SBA for people applying for hardship accommodation to reduce payments for COVID loans or disaster loans. In fact, we have a client who in Los Angeles who applied for a disaster loan, was declined, hired us to manage the reconsideration. This was a disaster loan for his house. And we went through hell. And as part of the experience, he informed me that he also has 2 small businesses, and he had applied for hardship accommodation for a COVID loan to reduce payments on one of those businesses, and he was declined. And so we submitted an appeal for that. And we were told at the end of the journey with this client, he is not eligible for any program, not eligible for hardship accommodation to lower his payments, not eligible for disaster loan due to discrepancies. And the SBA did not tell us what those discrepancies are. And I looked at this man's paperwork, and I've spoken to him dozens of times. He's a lot like our client from Illinois, a lot like our client Robert from who owns the hair salons. On point. All the boxes are checked off. Textbook. I saw his hardship accommodation application. We did a Freedom of Information Act. We got the COVID loan application. Everything was perfect. There was one minor error in the ownership, which is easily resolved. And yet to this day, we don't know why the SBA claims there are discrepancies between his COVID loan and his disaster loan that say he is not only that he can't be approved for this particular disaster, but is in forever. He's done, blocked. That's what I mean about the cop pulling you over when you're not speeding. But the cop says you're speeding and you get the ticket. That's what this memo today is telling you. Maya Angelou said, when they tell you who they are, believe them. This memo tells you what I have been warning you about. They are going to treat all of you like criminals. They're already doing it. They did it at the end of 2023, at the beginning of 2024, by sending 860,000 loans to collections as a result, in my opinion, of political pressure from politicians, senators, and congresspeople who believed that the COVID program was fraught with criminals and fraud. These people wouldn't know a criminal fell out of the sky and hit them in the head. And they're treating all of you like criminals. And it is about to get worse. Read the memo. You're going to need to apply for a disaster loan. You're going to need to do a change of ownership with the Small Business Administration. You're going to want to sell asset and you have a COVID loan. You're going to want to go to an SBA lender and get an SBA 7A to grow your business, but you got a COVID loan. You're going to apply for a disaster loan, and you're going to hit a brick wall because they're going to treat you like a criminal. They are telling you who they are. We've already seen what the administration, the SBA is capable of, what the bureaucracy is capable of when people are demanding that they do better to collect all of these monies that were loaned out during the pandemic. Collect more! I get Google alerts when the Department of Justice issues a press release when they indict or when they convict somebody for fraud under the COVID EIDL, or the Paycheck Protection Program, either of those two programs. Look, I didn't count how many press releases they issued last year. I don't know the number of prosecutions and indictments and convictions. I can only tell you off the top of my head, it's tiny. 4 million of you got COVID loans. I don't know how many PPP loans were done. Probably much more than 4 million. I mean, it was a giant amount of money that went into the American economy during the pandemic to help you small business owners, to support you small business owners. And the number of indictments, convictions, prosecutions is just, it's a drop in the bucket compared to how many of you got loans. I don't know. Isn't that proof that you're not criminals? Isn't that proof that it's not fraud? Just because some bureaucrat, some clerk at the Office of Inspector General can't understand that maybe you used a different email address on the application and that 3 years later you changed something in your business. Because, business is a living, breathing, organic thing, and you change stuff. But then they flag your file for fraud. Or in the case of us as consultants, being accused of submitting to the federal government a fake UCC filing form when the state of Florida issues its own UCC form. That's what I mean. Someone looks at your file, looks at it, or he's looking at me funny. That's what I mean. And they put a mark on your file. And good luck undoing that mark, because with our Los Angeles homeowner client, can't be undone. With this other discrepancy comment that we posted just a moment ago, it appears this person says they've been fighting discrepancies for over a year. Can't be undone. Some clerk, some team leader, because that's what they call their managers at the SBA, team leader, some bureaucrat, some loan specialist, some paralegal, some attorney, someone in the bureaucracy along the way marked you as potentially fraudulent. And it's about to get worse, a lot worse. Kelly Loeffler is telling you who she is, and she's telling you what her mission is at the SBA. By the way, if you comment and ask for advice, please know we're probably not going to respond. Because, by the way, we discovered that the other folks here on YouTube who talk about this topic, they don't respond to questions or comments. We're the only ones that do it. We know of no other expert with this program who does live question and answer sessions like we did last week, like we're doing again next week, to answer your questions in real time. We stopped doing consulting, by the way, because when people like you reached out for help, and we said, well, we can help, and this is what our fee is, they would either say it's too expensive, I don't know, relative to what, because Louis Cam from NBC Universal told me there's like nobody out there that does what we do in the United States. So I do not show what you're comparing our fee to. Either it's too expensive or they don't have the money for it. If you don't have the money, if you can't afford help, why are you asking for help, by the way? So we stopped doing consulting and we offer you our resource hub, which is currently priced at $675. Just yesterday, 2 inquiries for help. We respond to all the inquiries and we said, this is how we can help you. The Resource Hub, which if you buy it now at this price, through April 30th, you will get free updates, including access to a private playlist of instructional videos, which I'm creating here at this table, to help you be successful with the SBA, to help you overcome these challenges that we have helped thousands of small businesses to overcome with our knowledge, our insight, and our expertise for the last 5 years. And we sent these 2 emails out yesterday, which this happens every day, by the way, either here on YouTube or people calling our business phone or sending us emails, text messages, asking for help. And we say, okay, well, this is what we can offer, which now is not consulting. It's now the Resource Hub, currently priced at $675. When we publish the updates, which are coming soon, the price will go up to $1,285, and people don't buy it. And yet you all ask us for help. And I'm telling you right now, this is about to get a lot worse for you. And if you call me a huckster, if you call me a shill, if you tell me that I have a lot of nerve promoting our products, I have no words for you. Clearly, you are not a small business owner. You're a person who owns a job. You are not a business owner. Because I'm pretty sure people don't walk into your business or contact your business online and just expect you to give shit away for free, which is what you all do to us day in and day out. And by the way, call an attorney and see if you get free advice. Go ahead, do it. I'll wait, because it doesn't happen. Attorneys don't give free advice. And how many of you don't use certified public accountants for your tax returns? You know why? You don't use them because they're too expensive. But instead, you use some moron who doesn't answer the phone, who does terrible tax returns, who potentially get you in trouble with the Internal Revenue Service because it's cheaper. You get what you pay for.
by the way. So please understand, if we are reducing or eliminating our responses to your questions and your comments here, it's because we have been telling you for years what we can do to help you. And we have been giving you this information, updates like this video today about what is going on. And then folks just want us to do the work for free. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe. Please consider sharing this video with somebody who has a COVID loan or is applying for a disaster loan who may need our advice. Please consider tuning in to our live question and answer session on March 5th. They're going to treat you all like criminals. It's about to get a lot worse for you. We will help in the way that we can help, but we're not doing it for free anymore. This is not fear-mongering. Don't accuse me of fear-mongering. Read the memo. The phrase is step up collection efforts, accusing the previous administration of lax collection effort. They're telling you who they are, and we've just told you who we are.